So good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Ryan. Good to see you. Welcome to the Complete Sales live panel discussion. We thought it was such a catchy name that we were inviting you all in. So we have got a poll running in our polls. So if you want to take part in our poll, that'd be amazing. I'm Alison Edgar, MBE, and I am going to be hosting the panel with the absolutely amazing Karen Dunsquire and Anthony Steers. Come on, give it a big up. Give us a whoop whoop in the chat for Anthony and Karen. Come on, give us a whoop whoop, because you have the best, some of the best sales talent in the UK. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ladies first. Karen, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about your wonderful business and a little bit about what's going on in sales at the moment.
Oh, I would love to. Such a pleasure to be with you both. I'm Karen Dunsquire, aspiring MBE, one day. And I am the managing director of a business called Elation. And at Elation, we work with small businesses to help them meet their growth aspirations. So where I'm really passionate is about customer journey and how we motivate the people to deliver the very best in customer journey. And I think the big topic on the sales horizon for the last year has been how we ever more integrate digital into that journey. So I'm expecting we'll talk a little bit about how software and technology has been supporting people in the last 12 months. Anthony, what are you saying?
Me, so yeah, known as the telephone assassin. It's not as aggressive as it sounds, I promise. Hence, all the branding is pink. It does look like Barbie threw up in here, I know. When my friends ask me what I do, I say I teach people good manners and advanced common sense. Right. And what I mean by that is I just show people, I don't teach people how to sell, I just show them how to help their customers to buy. And it's really about being polite enough that people want to talk to you, but also understanding the emotional journey you have to take somebody through before they're going to do something as a result of speaking to you. So, yeah, interesting being locked up. I have my conversation steers, but during lockdown, we've had Zoom steers and all kinds of things leading the conversation. And like you say, guiding people through that customer journey, which is their full experience of dealing with us as a business.
So I've got a question for both of you. I'm going to start with Karen. So user experience, customer journey. So do you think that's more important now than it was pre-pandemic? How has the world changed the way the importance of the customer journey?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that, no, it's not more important. I think the quality of the experience that your customer has with your business has always been the be all and end all about how much money we make, right? It hasn't become more important. I think it's become a little bit more sophisticated. I think that what I recognized is the businesses that I worked with who had relatively one-dimensional customer experiences. They'd relied on really amazing telephone technique. They'd relied on really amazing field sales guys pounding the streets and building relationships. They'd had quite limited, communication routes. Those businesses have had to really adapt or die because they've had to think more cleverly about how am I using Zoom? How am I using video? How am I reaching out using WhatsApp voice notes? How can I build that relationship in as good a way when I don't have the ability to look someone in the whites of the eyes and shake their hands? So I think the quality of the experience still matters just as much, but how we build that relationship has become a bit more challenging. I think that's the key thing.
So if you build it stronger, like you're saying there, Karen, does that mean that it makes it easier to retain them? And does that mean that companies should do less proactive selling then and just work on retention? How does that all fit together?
Question. I think the quality of the retention is connected very specifically to the quality of the delivery. So you can bring people on board in a really robust way and still lose them if you fall down at delivery stage. But there is no doubt at all that the more effort you put in that lead generation and that lead nurture, the more effort you attribute to nurturing that relationship, the more likely someone is to stay loyal to you. Your relationship is deeper by the time they spend their first few pounds or shillings with you, so they're much more likely to stay. We are loyal to people that we like, aren't we?
Yeah. So it does lead me into Anthony now. Now again. So you were previously the telephone assassin, and you're now moving into a slightly different direction, which again has got your new methodology. But before you explain a wee bit more about that, Anthony, I have to ask the killer question. Cold calling, is it dead or alive? What's your thoughts? I just had to.
You've got to ask that. I suppose that a lot of people say cold calling is dead, and I think what they really mean is the art of just phoning somebody you have no idea about and randomly dropping a pitch down the phone just doesn't really exist anymore. We live in this world where people share and overshare online, and we should be doing research and knowing a bit about people before we reach out to them, which is why marketing, we get to profile various markets and that kind of leads you in that direction. I think that digital is, like Karen was saying, is definitely becoming more useful to the art of cold calling. That traditional cold calling, if phoning somebody who you don't really know, but it still works. I've got clients who will vouch for the fact that it works, but they would say that they're not cold callers, they're proactive experts. So what they tend to do with their cold calling is not try and sell. The analogy I give is they drop off their pizza menu. They create awareness with potential targets to say, hey, you're probably not looking for what we're doing right now, but if you are in the future, here's what people like you say about us. And they literally just introduce themselves, drop off little case studies that may resonate with that person. And from there, you'll tend to find if somebody is interested, and you can lead them on to a test drive and what have you next. So I wouldn't say it was dead, but I think the art of conversation, I was worried, was dying, because people have too many ways to hide behind emails, social media. Yeah, it's so
what you're saying, just to sort of recap on that. So you're saying that outreach is still a good way to do it, but it's got to be warm using digital. Is that what we're saying? So it's okay to do that.
Yeah, so warm using digital is better than cold. Obviously, any interaction you can get through social media, people who are responding to your messages are giving you buying signals. So following up on them is right. If you're going to be just doing the cold reaching out, then I do wish list marketing, not database marketing. So it's about having a short list of dream clients that each one would make a massive difference to your quarter or to your year, rather than having a database that you're going to sift through and try and get through the dead wood. People don't have time for that anymore.
So the days of picking up the phone and say, can I speak to the person that deals with buying your photocopiers? Are we saying that that's cold calling? Is that
yeah, pretty much.
Whereas with the research, so Karen, coming back to you on that one.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody is in that situation, I don't know if they sell photocopiers or not. We don't really know what the audience do. But what is out there, you know, for people who don't know, that what tools would you recommend when you work on the user journey with your clients? What's a good starting point for the guys in the audience to learn from?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I couldn't help but thinking when I was listening to Anthony that whatever customer journey you're creating, whatever touch points you're having, there really is nothing that beats a really great quality conversation. And I do think that the art of conversation is running the risk of dying. I do so much engagement with sales teams where I hear really transactional conversations being held. These people, you know, these are not transactional conversations. These are relationship building conversations that need to have some depth to them. So do not stop listening to what Anthony is saying about that kind of stuff, because throughout the journey, it has to be peppered with amazing quality human conversation. However, having really great snippet introductory videos. We use some really lovely Loom software where you narrate over a PowerPoint and you can send a really nicely designed slide with video narration over the top of it as an intro. We do little voice note audio introductions. There are so many things. We actually even use some interactive question and answer software where you can send a video directly into someone's email inbox and they can record a video response to you. tons and tons of ways that you can take people through the journey. And Anthony, you used the word awareness. You know, there is a different way that you would use the telephone and use LinkedIn and use video if you're looking to generate awareness and do that very first introductory level than there is if you're looking to sell. You know, and introducing yourself to someone is not the same as selling to them, and there's different steps to go through, aren't there? And most salespeople, I think Anthony will reinforce in a minute, sell far too early. Yeah, first phone call is not about flogging a product, it's about getting to know an individual. So whatever medium you're using, stop that too early selling.
So two things, I think, again, for anybody that watching, Karen's obviously got some amazing tools which help you on that journey. So it's Karen Dunsquire, it's Elation Sales. Get her on LinkedIn, or actually you can get her on the booth in this event. So again, definitely reach out to Karen on that, because she sounds like that queen. She knows what's going on there. So I've got another question for you, Anthony. You know, Karen just really highlighted it there, and like a mistake that business owners and salespeople make, and I see it all the time, you know, when I'm working with clients and as a customer, that they sell too soon. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they sell too soon?
So on the telephone, it's usually nerves. People are nervous, so they want to get it out as quickly as they can. And so it's funny because I describe it, you know, when somebody phones you and you can tell they're reading a script. Yeah. Or they do that thing where they go, you hear the intake of breath first and they go, hello there, this is my name and this is my company, and I'm going to speak really quickly so you can't interrupt me, and I'm going to hit you with a feature followed by a benefit in the hope that if you haven't hung up by the time I finish speaking, there's a really small chance that you might say yes. And you can hear them get out of breath. So, but this is what I describe, and this is what we call premature elaboration. It usually comes from either an overexcited or very desperate salesperson. They just can't hold it in, and quite often they do it all over a gatekeeper, which just stops them at the first hurdle. So I think quite often people are chasing their sales target. There is pressure in sales. So we've got to respect that. And quite often, I think what was said this morning with Dean is sometimes people just need to slow down. You need to build a relationship with somebody. We all know about that book about know, like, and trust. You need to get people to know you before they're going to decide if they like you. And then you get a chance to see if you can get them to trust you. So, yeah, it's just something that I think is pressure meets naivety meets overexcitement.
I love it. It sounds like a mad puppy dog. Right. So a couple of things. For those of you who are in the audience, we've set a poll. Let's find out your thoughts on sales. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you prefer marketing? That's a bit controversial. But and if you've got any questions, can you put them in the Q&A? But we do have a question here from D. Coxton. I'll come to Karen first. Given that decision makers have spent the last 18 months fighting fires and shifting focus and priorities, what is the polite way, given the pressure that they're under, to introduce my services and reignite their interest away from the fires? So they're all firefighting. What can Dee do to try and reinvigorate, relight her fire?
Relight that fire. I was about to bring that too. Well, what I won't do is talk about the language tips that I would recommend, because I think Anthony will do a much better job of that. But what I do think is massively important is we need to stop being fearful that businesses no longer require suppliers, right? Everybody still needs suppliers. What they need is better suppliers than they've ever had before. They need to invest their money wisely in organizations that are going to treat them with respect and deliver on those. So the two things that you need to be doing in that early stage customer journey is solving problems and adding value. Those two things specifically, not selling kit. Ignore what you sell right now. It's the least relevant thing at the early stage of the relationship. Solving problems is about understanding what is going wrong for the business, speak to them on a human level and understand what their challenges are, do research, understand what's going well and badly in their sector and demonstrate you can solve that problem, and add value with whatever free of charge content you can provide for them, whatever industry insights you can provide for them, whatever advice you can share with them. Create content, make it relevant and share it, because businesses do still need suppliers. They are just much more discriminating about who they're working with. So be the best. That's what I would be telling them.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting with that, Karen. I was at an event in Bristol this week, or virtually in Bristol, with Bev James, who's Joe Wicks's manager.
Yeah.
And what she was talking about is working with businesses on the white room strategy.
Interesting.
As opposed to Christian Grey and the red room strategy. I think it's a completely different thing, Karen.
Yeah.
And what she was saying was, if you were taking things out, who would you bring back in? What systems, what processes, and all those kind of things. And I do now think post-pandemic that a lot of companies are looking for new suppliers. I think it's a great time. So, for example, they may have an incumbent in there, but by asking them, they're potentially as somebody who already supplies that, just out of interest, on a scale of 1 to 5, if 1 means that you're not happy with them, 5 means you love them, where are you with your current supplier? Because by asking with a good killer question at that point, you know that they might have a supplier, but you don't know how happy. And I think, like, even with our telephone suppliers or our gas suppliers, we are willing to change, aren't we? So I think that's, I think, again, that feeds in from there. Anthony, do you want to add into anything, or do you want to take on the next question?
Well, no, with the question he talked about, not just firefighting. So kind of it's about being proactive, but also I think respectful at the same time. At the moment, I know that a lot of people who are doing well are keeping it relatively quiet because you don't want to be seen as rubbing it in and bragging while lots of people are struggling. But I just to almost add on to what Karen was saying, she talked about putting content out there for people. The way I talk about creating urgency is by offering people a test drive. Let them experience what you're like to work with. So those videos that Karen was talking about are great little test drives that allow you to give value to a client without swapping time or money. Okay, they get a chance to work with you and experience the value of what it's like, and that's how you tease people and you earn the respect, and they come back for more. So I thought that was a really good tip. And absolutely, with the suppliers, people are always looking to save a bit more money, get a bit more out of it. Although, having said that, there was something I wrote down earlier on, which was you were talking about the customer journey and how that was being more important. One thing that I always say to people is price will get you a deal, service will get you a client. And I think most people actually want clients and longevity out of their relationship rather than a one sale wonder. Yeah. And I think that's why the strategy and that customer journey is so much more important now.
So just to pick up on what you've both said there, because what that is coming through, it's not about dropping your prices to get that business. It's about giving, and look at their faces, like audience, look at the faces like, no. So I've got, this one's for you, Anthony, because I think it sort of fits into some of the things I know that you want to cover. And like Dee has put it in such a funny way. And when is it okay to taser the so maybe we're not tasering just because we know this has been recorded, but now that we are, people are remote working, maybe the gatekeeper is not actually in the same office as the decision maker. Yeah. Anthony, I know that that's something that this is your sweet spot, isn't it? So what's your thoughts on this?
I updated my, I put a sort of a COVID twist on my getting past gatekeepers. I'll be frankly honest with you, I don't have a silver bullet, a sentence that works every single time. I just have a strategy that is fully dressed in manners and respectful, but also prepared for the conversation. Getting past gatekeepers is always the most annoying hurdle because it's before you even get to talk to the right person and have a decent conversation. The way, I suppose, if the fact that people are home working and getting past that gatekeeper is the issue, the COVID twist I've been sharing with a lot of my clients that I know is working is, I always say, lead with the most common objection. So as I mentioned earlier on, if I was reaching out and creating awareness, I make it feel like I'm dropping off a pizza menu. I would be saying, hey, Alison, I'm the telephone assassin. I do a very specialist type of training to help people on the telephone, but I'm assuming you're probably not looking for this right now. Okay, lead with that most common objection because then it makes it safe to talk about and I can drop off my my kind of pizza menu. With a gatekeeper, I would just say, if Alison and I was after you and you didn't answer the phone, I would be saying, oh, good afternoon. I'm after Alison. Sorry, Alison Edgar, but I'm assuming she's probably working from home at the moment, is she?
You're going to say, no, she's off there polishing the MBE at the end of her name.
She's sat by the pool at the moment. No,
I assume she's probably having a cocktail somewhere.
I would lead with I'm after this person, but I'm assuming they're working from home. You get that initial, they agree with you, you get a yes. And they're kind of, oh, yes, they are at the moment. And then you can jump straight in and say, fantastic. So are you able to put me through, or do you have a number for them? And you try to do a kind of an alternative close.
Alternative, Anthony, love it.
Not really something that, like I say, it won't work every time. Sometimes they'll say, well, it's their personal mobile, I can't give it out, or because of GDPR, we can't do that. Occasionally they'll say, oh, they work on Skype or something, and you can ask if they're online. If I'm forced to send an email, then my tactic would always be to say, well, okay, Alison, I will send an email to that person, but I don't really know what I'm going to send until I've spoken to them, because I don't know what's relevant. And we have a really strict no spam policy here. So can I just check, are you telling me I need to send an email to set up a chat about the email I need to send? And, and quite often they realize it's pedantic and they go, yes. And I go, okay, no worries at all. Well, I tell you what, because they're working from home, spam filters can be a bit sensitive. So can I paste you in on the email, and just so I can make sure it got through? Okay. Nobody has ever said no. And I've got clients trying this out. Nobody has ever said no to that, because they're trying to help you. What you can then do is, when you don't get a call back by the following day, is I can phone again and say, hey, Alison, we spoke yesterday. I was after so-and-so. Can I just double check? Did my email get through your spam filter? Usually they confirm and say, oh, yes, it did. Okay. As if to say, yes, we got them. They say, we've got them. And you say, well, I know you got them, but I know that they're working from home and spam filters can be a little bit sensitive. Would you mind replying all and just asking that person to give me a quick call back, or letting me know the best number to catch them on? Okay. That way you end up with an internal message saying you need to call Anthony back, rather than Anthony left a message for you. So it seems to be working. A lot of my clients are saying it's working, but if I'm honest with you, just move on to the next number. You don't need to get through to a couple of people if you're going after your wish list for it to make a difference.
So some nice ways around the gatekeeper. So hopefully that answers that question. And I think, again, the thing with that's shining through from both of you, it's tenacity, isn't it? You know, that's one of the things I don't think has ever changed pre-COVID, post-COVID, since time began. It's carrying that motivation and moving it forward. So we've got about 9 minutes left. We are running a poll. The poll numbers are coming through. For those of you who have just joined us a wee bit late, I'm running a little poll to see what people's thoughts are in sales. So if you click on the polls, it will be in there. The next question, we've got one more question, and then we've got some chat that I'm going to cover. So Karen, do you want to take this one? Cool. Post-COVID, do you think value of a service or product is still more important than price? I think we've covered that, given people are keeping money close to their chest. So again, if people are getting hammered on price, how can the viewers find out how to move that conversation away from price and into value? Give me a quick top tip on that one, Karen.
100%. I am absolutely obsessed with value selling. Most of my clients are the most expensive in their sector. And I also do not intend to be the cheapest in mine, right? Nobody really wants the cheapest. Nobody has ever written on their wish list, I want the cheapest sales training in the world. I want the cheapest table in the world. Nobody's ever written that down. We become obsessed with, as salespeople, with the idea of price only when it's all we're selling on. Yeah. So number one is, I always suggest keep your pricing as a PS. Yeah, I'm going to tell you about all the problems I'm going to solve. I'm going to tell you about the skill with which I'm going to solve them. I'm going to tell you about the other people who've benefited from my services way before I'm going to tell you about how much it costs, because that is about that value perception. When someone says to you, I think that is too expensive, what they're actually saying is, I don't think it's worth that money. Yeah, they're not making a judgment about your pricing structure. They're telling you that they don't believe they're going to get enough back in return. Yeah, so you've got to have discussions with your audience about why you're worth investing in. So the key thing here is be very, very clear of the problems you solve. Talk about them explicitly and have tangible proofs that you have delivered effectively. Then the price becomes the PS, because they want you so badly that actually they know they'd be prepared to invest in it. And if that wasn't true, then Porsche wouldn't have a business. Yeah?
So, is that sell the sizzle, not the sausage?
Yeah. And exactly that.
I love sales conversations. Martin Simmons, it's not a question so much as a statement, but I practiced my elevator pitch to death at the start. Biggest lessons was to lose the pitch and sit back and enjoy the conversation. Yes. So, based on what we've talked about today, if you can give the audience just one top tip, one thing that they can do differently from today, what would that one thing be? Anthony, I'll come to you first.
I suppose in that context of pitching, I always say the best way to perfect your pitch is to share a success story somebody can relate to. So use case studies and testimonials of existing customers and share it with other people who are just like them, but do highlight some of the characteristics within that thing to really spell it out why people will resonate with this. If you create a credibility library, you no longer have to pitch.
Oh, I love a little related story. I love that. Look at Karen's face. Like, I'm just watching the faces. This is hilarious. Everybody's like, oh my God, they're loving it. Yeah. Karen, give us a wee top tip that people can implement from today.
So to keep it specific to pitching, I know we could talk about customer journey all day long, but we're talking specifically about these interactions with customers. Every salesperson I have ever met needs to be more naturally inquisitive. Yeah, give a shit about your customer. Ask the questions. It's not about going through a process of asking the 4 questions your boss told you had to ask. It's about seeking to deepen your understanding of that person and their business. Be naturally inquisitive. Spend more time talking about them, their needs, and what they want from you than you do talking about your product. And that is where you will get your sales from. So naturally inquisitive, please, sales teams.
I love that, and it sort of brings back memories from when I worked for a really big organization and we had a presentation to go through, and they taught us at this stage, which is weird because it was one of the best sales training in that company than there was in the UK. Yeah. You had to sit and bore people with your presentation about how wonderful you were, rather than asking brilliant questions. So the result of the poll is coming in. We've got time for one more question. So if anybody has got one more question while I give the results of the poll. So what are your thoughts on sales? 66.67% love sales.
You've turned up to the right event.
11.11% thinks that it's yucky and sleazy. And I think, again, it's interesting because in the small business arena, when you are the owner, the runner, and a lot of people really struggle with sales. And again, I'm hoping if they can take some top tips from this. And then 22.22 say it's okay, but I prefer marketing. And that's the story of our lives, guys, isn't it? Yeah. So there's no more questions, but what I'd love to do is just do a roundup of how the audience can get a hold of you and your collateral. And also, can you tell us about your talks tomorrow? So Anthony, jump in first. Tell us how they get a hold of you and about your talk.
Find me on LinkedIn, just Google Telephone Assassin. You'll find my phone number. It's very easy to find. Give me a call. Obviously, you can send me a message. But tomorrow I will be sharing my 5 conversation steers to show people how to stay in control of their conversations. So I believe it's at 11:30. Quite excited about that. And then obviously I'm going to be sticking around for 1 o'clock because then we have Karen.
We do. Karen, not even a minute's rehearsal. Thank you, Anthony. So I am speaking at 1 o'clock tomorrow as part of the remote working conference, and my presentation is about how to create a connected culture with a distributed workforce. And it's all about how you create really high performing culture when you don't have the personal connection that we might previously have had. If you want to know more about that or anything business growth related, visit our stand. Elation, our exhibitors here at the show. Not only will I be on the stand, virtual stand, quite exciting. You'll also get to meet some members of my team. We've got some great free giveaways, lots of great material that you can get your hands on that will help you smash your growth aspirations for 2021.
Oh, and that leads really nicely into my new book, Smash It, The Art of Getting What You Want. So I believe that everything that we do in our life is a sale. Getting somebody to make you a cup of tea, getting your kids to do their homework, it is a sale. And I prove it in my new book, Smash It, The Art of Getting What You Want, which is available on Amazon, all the big retailers. It also has a free app that accompanies it to make sure you do and are accountable to me. I have been Alison Edgar, MBE. It's been an absolute pleasure to have Anthony and Karen with us today. Thank you to Ryan and the team for the show, and we will see you at the next one. Go smash it!
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the show.